So let's talk about iodine for just a second.
Okay, sure.
Because I think this, even with functional medicine doctors, okay?
Yeah.
And I want to go back to the corn and soy because I think that's really interesting. But,
Yeah.
I have literally talked to different, and people that I respect very much, but they are very complete opposite on iodine.
They
So
are.
some people say, yes, avoid it as a supplement, whether you have hyperthyroidism or hypothyroidism. The effect of iodine supplements can cause your thyroid to either produce too much or too little hormone. And then there's other doctors that say that iodine is really good for your thyroid and that you absolutely need it. So what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's definitely a paradox, and it becomes almost like a religious war. When you hear people talk about it, it gets heated and angry. So I really respect Dr. Karazian in this because he is just a pure researcher. So he has one of the best explanations for it. And if people Google like Dr. K News and iodine, he has a great article on it. And so I talked with him at length about this too. So what's the deal with it? He said, and his perfect example was he had a doctor who used to teach the courses that he created, who they got into a whole debate over this as well too. And he said the big thing you have to understand is that if you have these Hashimoto's antibodies, if you have an autoimmune hypothyroid, then iodine can really create a problem. That's about 90% or more of people who have an underactive thyroid. Whereas if you have what's called primary hypothyroidism, where you don't have an autoimmune component, then you can take iodine and there's really no side effects. It can be quite beneficial because we know you do need iodine in order to have proper thyroid function. But here's where Dr. Karazian says there's a paradox. So let's say you have a patient who's got a slow thyroid and they also have a need for iodine, but they also have Hashimoto's antibodies. When you put supplemental iodine into the body and there's the presence of Hashimoto's antibodies, it can trigger an increase of those Hashimoto's antibodies. And there are actual cases, this is one of the things my wife went through, is that iodine triggered a thyroid storm. And you can have it to where the storm can be bad enough, let's say if it's intravenous iodine, to where it can trigger a stroke. And that is well diagnosed or well documented in medical research. You also have it to where taking supplemental iodine can also trigger an increased attack on the thyroid. So this is where Dr. Karazian says there's a paradox to where, let's take a patient who has thyroid antibodies, but they also have low iodine. They can take supplemental iodine and they can feel really good while they're taking it, which is what happened with the doctor that was teaching Dr. Karazian's courses. He had a low thyroid and also had some thyroid antibodies, and he got onto the bandwagon of you have to take iodine. And Dr. Karazian warned him because he said, well, I'm feeling great taking the iodine. And Dr. Karazian said, you should really stick to trying to do that through the foods, because when you take it in the supplemental form, while you're feeling good with the iodine, it's also doing this insidious attack to where you're taking it in. Now you've got these antibodies that are released and they can tag your thyroid for destruction. And then depending on how active your immune system is, it can either be rapid destruction or it can be a slow destruction over time that is destroying thyroid tissue. And so while you're feeling good in the short term, it can give you long-term dysfunction as your body continues to destroy thyroid tissue. Got to the point where I think Dr. Karazian said within 4 or 5 years, this particular doctor was practically bedridden because he destroyed so much of his thyroid. So that's my take on it.